We will continue with the Christmas story. Today's story is called How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Every Who down in Whoville liked Christmas a lot. But the Grinch who lived just north of Whoville did not. The Grinch hated Christmas, the whole Christmas season. Now please don't ask why. No one quite knows the reason. It could be his head wasn't screwed on just right. It could be, perhaps, that his shoes were too tight. But I think that the most likely reason of all may have been that his heart was 2 sizes too small. But whatever the reason, his heart or his shoes, he stood there on Christmas Eve, hating the Whos, staring down from his cave with a sour, grinchy frown at the warm lighted windows below in their town. For he knew every Who down in Whoville beneath was busy now, hanging a mistletoe wreath. And they're hanging their stockings. He snarled with a sneer. Tomorrow is Christmas. It's practically here. Then he growled, with his Grinch fingers nervously drumming, I must find some way to stop Christmas from coming. For tomorrow, he knew, all the Who girls and boys would wake bright and early. They'd rush for their toys. And then, the noise. Oh, the noise. That's one thing he hated. The noise. Then the Whos, young and old, would sit down to a feast. And they'd feast. And they'd feast. And they'd feast. Feast. They would feast on Who pudding and rare Who roast beef, which was something the Grinch couldn't stand in the least. And then they'd do something he liked least of all. Every Who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, would stand close together with Christmas bells ringing. They'd stand hand in hand. And the Whos would start singing. They'd sing. And they'd sing. And they'd sing. Sing. And the more the Grinch thought of this Who Christmas sing, the more the Grinch thought, I must stop this whole thing. Why, for 53 years I've put up with it now. I must stop this Christmas from coming. But how? Then he got an idea. An awful idea. The Grinch got a wonderful, awful idea. I know just what to do. The Grinch laughed in his throat, and he made a quick Santa Claus hat and a coat. And he chuckled and clucked. What a great Grinchy trick. With this coat and this hat, I look just like Saint Nick. All I need is a reindeer. The Grinch looked around. But since reindeer are scarce, there was none to be found. Did that stop the old Grinch? No, the Grinch simply said, if I can't find a reindeer, I'll make one instead. So he called his dog Max. Then he took some red thread, and he tied a big horn on the top of his head. Then he loaded some bags in some old empty sacks in a ramshackle sleigh, and he hitched up old Max. Then the Grinch said, get up, and the sleigh started down toward the homes where the Whos lay a snooze in their town. All their windows were dark. Quiet snow filled the air. All the Whos were all dreaming sweet dreams without care when he came to the first little house on the square. This is stop number 1. The old Grinchy closed his stand. He climbed to the roof. Empty bags in his fist. Then he slid down the chimney. A rather tight pinch. But if Santa could do it, then so could the Grinch. He got stuck only once for a moment or two. Then he stuck his head out of the fireplace flue where the little Who stockings all hung in a row. These stockings, he grinned, are the first things to go. Then he slithered and slunk with a smile most unpleasant around the whole room, and he took every present. Pop guns and bicycles, roller skates, drums, checkerboards, tricycles, popcorn, and plums, and he stuffed them in bags. Then the Grinch, very nimbly, stiffed all the bags one by one up the chimney. Then he slunk to the icebox. He took the Who's feast. He took the Who pudding. He took the roast beast. He cleaned out that icebox as quick as a flash. Why, that Grinch even took their last can of Who hash. Then he stuffed all the food up the chimney with glee. And now, grinned the Grinch, I will stuff up the tree. And the Grinch grabbed the tree and he started to shove when he heard a small sound like the coo of a dove. He turned around fast, and he saw a little Cindy Lau, who was not more than 2. The Grinch had been caught by this tiny daughter who got out of bed for a cup of cold water. She stared at the Grinch and said, "Santa Claus, why are you taking our Christmas tree? Why?" But, that old Grinch was so smart and so slick, he thought up a lie. And he thought it up quick. "Why, my sweet little toad? The fake Santa Claus lied. There's a light on this tree that won't light on one side. So I'm taking it home to my workshop, my dear. I'll fix it up there. Then I'll bring it back here." And his fib fooled the child. Then he patted her head and he got her a drink and he sent her to bed. And when Cindy Lou, who went to bed with her cup, he went to the chimney and stuffed the tree up. Then the last thing he took was the log for their fire. Then he went up the chimney himself, the old liar. On their walls he left nothing but hooks and some wire. And the one speck of food that he left in the house was a crumb that was even too small for a mouse. Then he did the same thing to the other whose house, leaving crumbs much too small for the other whose mouses. It was 15:15 dawn. All the who's still a-bed, all the who's still a-snooze when he packed up his sled, packed it up with their presents. The ribbons, the wrappings, the tags, and the tinsel. The trimmings, the trappings, 3,000 feet up the side of Mount. Crumpet, he rode with his load to the tip-top to dump it. Pooh-pooh to the who's. He was Grinch-ishly humming. They're finding out now that no Christmas is coming. They're just waking up. I know just what they'll do. Their mouths will hang open a minute or two, then the who's down in Whoville will all cry boo. That's a noise, grinned the Grinch, that I simply must hear. So he paused, and the Grinch put his hand to his ear, and he did hear a sound rising over the snow. It started in low, then it started to grow. But the sound wasn't sad. Why, this sound sounded merry. It couldn't be so, but it was merry, very. He stared down at Whoville. The Grinch popped his eyes. Then he shook. What he saw was a shocking surprise. Every who down in Whoville, the tall and the small, was singing without any presents at all. He hadn't stopped Christmas from coming. It came. Somehow or other, it came just the same. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags. And he puzzled 3 hours till his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a little bit more. And what happened then? In Whoville they say that the Grinch's small heart grew 3 sizes that day. And the minute his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with his load through the bright morning light, and he brought back the toys and the food for the feast. And he himself, the Grinch, carved the roast beast. God will bless you. We will continue with the Christmas story. Today's story is called If Wishes Were Horses. Oh, Mom, isn't he beautiful? 8-year-old Kim trembled with excitement. I've prayed every night for a horse for Christmas. And here he is. He was an Appaloosa that had galloped up our lane, nostrils flaring before stopping at the barn door. My husband, Bob, led him into a stall and slapped the muscular shoulder. I bet this fella belongs to Sue Mutton, he said. This morning at the feed store, she mentioned getting a barrel racer. Kim vigorously shook her head, insisting. He's my horse. God sent him. Refusing to be torn even for supper from her horse, Kim remained in the barn, currying the mud-splattered coat with a 5-cent comb bought at an auction. I finally got Sue on the phone. She'd been driving around in search of her missing steed. Soon, she arrived with a horse trailer. Silver Dollars just got spooked by a neighbor's dog, Sue explained. Thanks for taking care of him. Kim stood by silently as the clop of hooves on the ramp drummed an end to her dream. I put my arm around the narrow shoulders in the faded pink parka. I'm sorry, Kim. But even if someone did give us a horse for free, we couldn't afford to feed it. Kim shrugged me off, weary of hearing how the drought a summer ago had left us barely able to make ends meet. Later, as she pushed around vegetables and reheated soup, I noticed a tear splash into the bowl. We sat alone in the kitchen while Bob finished chores. I know you're disappointed, I soothed. Maybe next year. Kim stirred her untasted soup. I need a horse now. You don't have to buy me any more presents for the rest of my life. I'll get a job to pay for his hay, Kim. We can't afford new shoes for you. And a horse needs 2 pair. She ignored my feeble attempt at humor. Christmas is supposed to be when you get what you want. Kim sniffed. And I want a horse, I sighed. You have the wrong idea, darling. Christmas is when we celebrate God's gift to us, his son. And the best way to do that is by giving to others. Kim stared into her bow. Platitudes were useless, I knew. At her age, she needed an example she could relate to. I touched her hand. For my 7th birthday, I confided I wanted just one thing more than anything in the world. No response. I pressed on valiantly. It was a china tea set decorated with violets. A complete set with teapot cups, sugar bowl, and creamer. Grudgingly, Kim queried, "Did your parents get it for you?" They planned to, but then my little brother got sick, and his medicine was very expensive. Kim scowled. I continued. Later, an aunt gave me $5 for a present. I was thrilled because I could buy the set. Uninterested, Kim squirmed. "I'm not hungry, Mom. May I be excused?" "You know what, though?" I went on, ignoring her. "I didn't buy it." Kim stopped halfway out of her chair. "Why? I thought you wanted it more than anything in the whole world." I nodded. When my dad took me to the store, I picked up that set and imagined pouring tea for my dolls. Even now, I could still recall the thrill of clutching that box close to me. Then I saw a baseball glove and remembered Andy lying in bed at home. Sinking back, Kim really looked at me for the first time. "You bought the glove instead? Did Andy like it?" My vision blurred and I swallowed hard, once more engulfed by the anxiety and grief of that long-ago summer. Andy never got well enough to play Kim, but he slept with that glove in his arms. That made me happier than any tea set ever could. I saw the sparkle of tears in Kim's eyes before she darted out of the kitchen, leaving me to my memories and the hope she understood the message I tried to convey. On Christmas morning, Kim didn't once mention horses. She thanked us for her new parka and matching scarf. "Open this next, Mom." Eyes shining, Kim placed a big box in my lap. I ripped away the tissue paper, then almost gasped. In the box was a child's china tea set decorated with violets, complete with teapot, cups, sugar bowl, and creamer. Bob gave me a puzzled look as tears rolled down my cheeks. "Kim dragged me to 10 stores till we found that. And now you're crying." I held the box close, exchanging a loving look with our dog.